Most people believe that our home prices have only been rising for the past 2 years, when in reality, nationally, home prices have been increasing for 124 consecutive months between February of 2012 and June of 2022. That is how long we have been in a seller's market. And in the Phoenix market, we have been in a seller's market since about 2011. We saw a small balance market in 2014, but that did not last long, and we were right back into a seller's market. Since about June nationally and May here in the Phoenix market, that has all changed, and prices have actually been declining. The seasonally adjusted Case-Shiller's National Home Price Index has posted 3 consecutive months of a decline. In total, this 2.2% decline ties the second biggest correction, although it remains far below the 26% correction between 2007 and 2012. How did we get here and why are prices reversing? Well, to start off with, our affordability got way out of whack. And while many could afford the homes when the interest rates were low, as our interest rates rose, the affordability got even farther out of reach. So does that mean that all home prices are now going to come down? Well, this remains the question, and the reason it's hard to answer is because our supply and demand has been flopping around like a fish out of water. Our supply increased drastically, sounding alarm bells off everywhere. Then it slowed back down again, and we seem to be reducing the number of homes that were actually coming on the market. What we also saw was a reduction in mortgage applications, which were down 38% year over year. And this was not surprising, as interest rates rose from the 3% to over 7%. They have settled back down into the mid-6s, but is still far higher than what we've been used to. Now, the other piece they do not talk about is that it is normal for us to see a decrease in mortgage applications in the fourth quarter of every single year. So while they are down, a lot of this is very seasonal. Now, many believe that we could see interest rates fall to the low 6s by mid-2023. This would increase buyer demand. What seems to be plaguing us the most is our housing supply, which is remaining tight nationally. In fact, new listings on Realtor.com are down 17.25% year over year. Here in the Phoenix market, our active listing counts have been dropping fast despite our low demand, but our coming soon counts have actually increased over the last week. We reached a low point at 323 on December 16th, and this week they are up to 478. That's the highest coming soon count since November 9th. Now, this does not show a huge flood of inventory coming on the market, but it is an increase. Many buyers who would normally be looking to move up to a bigger home have decided to postpone their switch because they don't want to give up their 2% or 3% interest rate. This is one of the biggest things that is hurting our inventory right now. But who can blame a seller who doesn't want to give up that interest rate? So if sellers are fine staying put where they are, therefore our supply does not increase, and buyers aren't looking to buy as often as they were before, therefore our demand is not high, where does this leave our market? Will we just remain in balance? See, it all comes back to what I've talked about in so many of my other videos, supply and demand. But the additional thing that has to be looked at is the speed at which either of these change. See, if inventory does not increase drastically, but just sits on the market, this will have an effect on pricing. While national inventory levels are up on Realtor.com by 46.8% year over year, the picture varies significantly from city to city. Now, they love to talk about soaring inventory for cities like Austin and Phoenix. They're quoting for Austin, 160.7% increase, and for Phoenix, 176% increase. Meanwhile, markets like Chicago and New York remain relatively unchanged. So I have to say that these are year-over-year numbers and can sound a bit misleading, because although our inventory has grown and is higher overall than it has been in the last 2 years, we are actually adding less number of homes to the market every week than we were at this same time last year. And our month supply has actually come down. And when it comes to inventory, speed of inventory matters. A sudden inventory spike often marks a housing market that has gone into full-blown correction. Here in the Phoenix market, we saw this happen when we peaked in May. And since then, our home prices have been declining and have since erased all of our home price appreciation for 2022. The question then comes, how much further will home prices fall? Although we have seen an increase in our inventory, we are still below our pre-pandemic levels. Firms like CoreLogic and Homes.com doubt that U.S. home prices will fall in 2023 with inventory being so tight, while researchers at Morgan Stanley say those housing bulls should probably reevaluate their stance. Morgan Stanley researchers actually said this: The fact that we expect home prices to start falling on an annual basis in March of 2023, despite tight inventory, reflects how unprecedented this affordability situation is in the U.S. housing market. They expect U.S. home prices to actually decline by about 10% peak to trough, even though supply remains below 6 months inventory. Now, this magic 6 month inventory number that I have talked about in my other videos, I just have to bring up again because there's so much more to it. See, the reality is this. If we have more homes going under contract than we actually have active on the market, then our contract ratio number is going to be higher, meaning that it is going to swing more towards the sellers. So the number of months on the market doesn't really matter. And by having more homes under contract than we have active on the market, this is going to prop up pricing. Rick Palacios Jr., Director of Research for John Burns Real Estate Consulting, said this to Fortune. When demand abruptly falls off a cliff, the absolute level of supply isn't relevant. This is where watching the rate of change on both supply and demand separately is critical. Heading forward, John Burns Real Estate Consulting expects inventory to rise further into next spring. In terms of national home prices, the firm expects a 20 to 22% peak to trough decline if affordability remains troubled by a 6% mortgage interest rate. It's very likely we see supply rise come spring, which is typical. The new home supply in particular should rise, as we know finished homes completions are now increasing as builders have a lot more unsold homes still under construction working through the system. This will be the first spring selling season since 2008 where mortgage rates are about 6%. So we're expecting a bumpy ride in general for sellers, especially if the economy is officially in a recession. While Morgan Stanley researchers don't think that the tight inventory will prevent home price declines, they do believe that the tight inventory levels will prevent a 2008-style crash. Morgan Stanley researchers also said this. Although supply doesn't keep home price growth floored at zero, we do believe it prevents home price declines from becoming too large. Here in the Phoenix market, I do believe we will see much of what our inventory levels are going to do sooner than the rest of the country. This is purely based on when our market heats up, which is mid-January. We do anticipate to see our inventory rise, but we also anticipate to see our demand increase. But to what degree on both of these remains to be seen. But I do think that every analyst has made it quite clear that although we are in for a bumpy ride for 2023, we do not anticipate anything near what 2008 was. Now, if you like this video, make sure you take a look at this one. If I can answer any questions, please feel free to reach out. As always, I thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.